And welcome back and welcome to Dark Alignment Podcast. I am Brittany.
And I'm Eruca Rose.
And we are a true crime astrology podcast. This is episode 2 of season 2. But it's actually our 14th episode. Technically, this is our 15th episode because this is our second time recording this particular one.
We did this like 2 weeks ago, and we lost everything for different reasons.
Yeah,
we had 5 or 6 different technical issues that some could have been prevented, some couldn't have. So there was just no saving it. We were not meant to put that one out.
We really tried so hard to get you guys, we're trying to get more on a regular schedule, get you guys some more regular content. And as soon as we try to do that, we kind of had some universe happenings that prevented us from getting things done how we wanted to. So apologies for that.
That's also why it looks a little different if you're watching on YouTube today. We are double recording this one.
Lesson learned.
I borrowed my sister's fancy camera. We're recording on a stack of books. And we're recording. She does photography, if anyone was wondering. And she's a graphic designer. And we have another stack of books for the mic over here. We have our regular setup as well going.
There's pictures of the setup and just how janky it is right now.
Check it out
on our Instagram. It's pretty comical. Oh god. It's getting the job done. Here we are. But you can also find us, like I said, on Instagram, social media. We're at Dark Alignment. I'm at Britt_Oakley.
And I'm at Eruca Rose.
So I guess we'll go ahead and get into the story. So this week, this actual story and the research component took a lot more time than normal because this is a little bit more of an obscure story. It's not heavy hitter, which is kind of what we normally do, but it is a really interesting heavy hitter. Yeah,
heavy hitter.
Punch moves.
I hardly know her.
Yeah, no, this is a story that when I heard it, I found it so fascinating and so crazy. That we had to cover it. So this is the story of Brittany Norwood and the murder of Jaina Murray. But you might actually know it more commonly as the LULULEMON murder. So I'm going to go ahead and get into citations here. There's a long list, so bear with me. Like I said, I had to go through a lot of sources to find details on this case and details on both the victim and the offender here.
Yes, she needs a lot of credit for finding all of this information. It was not easy.
Thank you. Yeah, it was kind of hard to find the specific things that I wanted to know. I usually have a pretty structured format in what I present to you guys as far as information goes. This is going to be a little different just because there wasn't a lot of early childhood information about either one of these people. So, citations. WJLA.com, WUSA.com, 9news.com, Murderpedia, which is fantastic, BusinessInsider.com, Washington Post, Seattle Times, HexFilesCollective.com, and Wikipedia. So please donate to Wikipedia if you have not before. If it's a platform that you use for any form of research or even just self-education. It is only based in donations, so to keep that platform alive, there's tons of great info there. I use it all the time, so I try to make sure I donate once a year. Just fighting the good fight, I guess. This was kind of the reason the story was really salacious is it's very, very violent. So we're gonna trigger warning. This is a fucked up story. And the yoga pants are overpriced. So 2 things to be very aware of. So the aggressor in this case was a very small in stature female, which was part of what made people want to pay attention to it. And because it involved rich and popular yoga pants, everybody's kind of really paying attention to it. So you may be asking yourselves, what the fuck is LULULEMON? I don't know what that even is and what you're saying right now. It's kind of how I felt. I had to do a lot of research about it. I actually did a whole adventure where I went to LULULEMON.
She did. There's a local one.
And I, against the rules, I took video in there and they were playing some garbage music and I walked around listening to that super shitty music. I took pictures of myself holding $38 pairs of socks and
it was crazy.
I'm pretty sure management was on to me. They knew I didn't belong there. But yeah, we'll post some of those pictures too when we release the episode, because I was having a heyday in there. Having so much fun, just like mocking it and being like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. So it's like a culty athletic brand. And like these super...
Some of the stuff is nice though. I have to say, so I do have a pair of Lululemon shorts.
You know what? She wore them in the last episode. We wore yoga clothes.
We did. And we were really on theme and everything last time, but it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, the running shorts that I have from them, I don't run anyway, but I wouldn't run in these shorts. They're extremely short. They show a lot. Like they're not good for running.
Also, probably not great for yoga either. I don't know. Are they?
No, I wouldn't wear them. I don't wear them to yoga. I don't wear them to pole. I sleep in them.
So if you're looking for some nice, expensive sleep shorts, overpriced sleep shorts are available.
Maybe if I went running with someone else with really short shorts on or something, maybe then I'd feel a little more comfortable.
I'm a runner. I'm not running in shorts. I do not have a thigh gap.
I feel like I'm gonna be murdered for me. I feel like if I show too much skin and I'm out in the world, I'm gonna just get murdered. So I feel like I would probably be murdered. They're probably murder shorts.
See, I'm only concerned with like thigh chafing. Not, I'm always concerned about being murdered no matter what I'm wearing. Mm-hmm. But those shorts, thigh problems. I'm a not thigh gap girl. So I'm what they call bottom heavy. So. Oh my god. Anyway. So yeah, super culty. The one I went to felt really culty. It's, it's like weird vibes, and the people working there, I guess, like, who have described it, say it's kind of like being in a cult, because they have to go to these, like, training things, like seminars that are kind of weird, and the founder is also kind of known for saying some bullshit about women's bodies, which I'm sure not a fan of. Very, very body positive. I can't handle body shaming. I'm a very much a love the skin you're in, love yourself kind of person. Yes. So I don't really, I think that's pretty fucking gross to make comments about women's bodies. And
profit off of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's part of his brand. He was also quoted as saying that birth control causes breast cancer and leads to divorce. He says that...
It's a good look.
Here we go. I feel personally attacked and victimized by this statement here. He said that their yoga pants don't work for women whose thighs touch. Which I'm like, what? You know what?
The majority, I feel like, do. So, he's dumb.
Yeah, it's pretty rude. So they also do sponsorships and ambassadorships for people. So if you promote them, I know yoga instructors do that a lot, where they're sponsored by Lululemon.
Yeah.
And they wear all their clothes and take pictures of it. So they do kind of that sort of thing too. They have fitness events inside of the stores, which is interesting because I remember seeing emails about...
I haven't been, but...
I've only been in to there one time with one goal, and that was just because I needed the experience.
Well, the events are actually closer here. I'll have to tell you more about it later.
Okay, all right. We're going to talk about the events on Patreon.
Yeah. They will be, every time we do an episode now, we're doing a bonus Patreon
Yes,
episode.
we are.
So get on the Patreon. Please support us.
We've been putting some good stuff out there. Yes. I really love that we've been doing, kind of... side thoughts on the case. I've been doing a lot of theories. I'm gonna start doing more where I'm gonna talk about basically criminal psychology.
Mm-hmm. She's a criminal psychologist. She's
okay. This is a technicality. I'm a student of criminal psychology.
She's about
I'm
done,
very
though.
close.
You're done. That last semester of my biochem degree, I'm a biochemist. I have 2 classes
I haven't stepped into that space yet, but I definitely would love to share some of that a little bit more closely with the Patreon people who want to kind of dive a little bit deeper. I try to give you a little bit, surface level criminology, psychology stuff.
Lots of good stuff on there.
Yeah, so check that out if you're interested. But more about this weird Lululemon vibe.
Yes, go ahead.
So the fitness stuff, the employees are required to go to these events as well, which feels like a sorority to me.
Yeah.
They make you go to the fundraiser if you don't come.
That's not cool. You're punished and yelled at, and yeah.
And it's just, and the employees say that the trainings and all their weekend seminars and stuff, and they're highly encouraged to keep going to them, that it's really intense, which I'm sure. And then they also have some stupid mantras. So One of them, let's see what it is. Elevating the world from mediocrity to greatness. Like, y'all, you make yoga pants, but sure. The employees are trained to like listen to other people and like gain information from them, like kind of like sell a little bit more. So it's very salesy. I felt that while I was in there. And then also if you miss a sale because someone like recognizes that it's garbage and they don't want it, you get pulled aside and like they're actually like eavesdropping on each other's sales pitch and being like, hey, God. Amy, you know, I saw what happened with Timmy, and I really want to talk about it. Like, let's have a team huddle real fast.
I couldn't do that. Like, I can sell if I need to, I guess. Like, I have before, but it has to be something I want to sell, first of all. Second, like, having somebody, like, my coworkers eavesdropping on me, talking to somebody all the time, I have social anxiety, man. So, like, I can't, no.
I have a great story. I did have a job like this once.
Really?
In a retail store. Dang. And it was the worst. I worked there for like a couple of months. And one night I had fucking had it. And I told the manager that I would not be returning. I was like,
what did you say?
And she was like, is this your 2 weeks notice? And I was like, no, this is like
I'm done.
I'm just not going to come back. So I hope to tell you more about it.
I love it.
It was so weird and it was awful. I did make pretty good money there though. Like I was decently good at it, but I really hated it.
Patreon story.
At that time I worked in like weird culty retail. So yeah, thank you for taking
Quit cult retail. Got it. Okay, go ahead.
It's a good story. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start talking about two individuals. We're going to talk about Brittany Norwood first, who, spoiler alert, she's a murderer. So she was described in the media as a well-educated 29-year-old. And most of what the public knows about her comes from firsthand accounts and a little bit from like social media, but she wasn't super active on social media. So she was a hardcore athlete, actually, was really talented. She was very petite though, which I find really interesting. She was only 5 foot tall, so that's pretty small, even like for a female. That's
pretty small for a murderer.
Pretty small for a murderer. I believe the average height of a female in America is like 5'4".
Yes.
So I don't know where I'm pulling that from. Like my memory.
I looked that up more recently. That's right.
Because I knew that I'm always known I'm above average height. And
I'm right at
females. So yeah,
I'm 5'3 3/4".
I'm 5'7", so I'm a little bit taller. But yeah, so she was pretty small. Like she's like more than half a foot smaller than me when I think about that. That's crazy. So she's like little. She was petite, but also she was like pretty much a badass. She played for Stony Brook University's women's soccer team. She really excelled at the sport. She made all league teams twice. I guess that's a big fucking deal. I don't really know. Did some soccer shit. And then she was named the defensive most valuable player one season. She was given conference honors. She earned a spot on some fancy team. I wrote it down. Let's see. NSCAA Adidas All Northwest Region team. So if that means anything to you, like, get excited right now because apparently it's important. And then one of her coaches, this is really funny to me. I think it's really telling. One of her coaches like summed her up in one statement, and he said, Brittany hates losing more than she likes winning, which is very interesting. And then her former teammates had some opinions too. And they definitely were not shy about expressing those opinions to the media when all of this went down. Evelyn is making all kinds of noise.
Oh, baby Evelyn.
I feel like I need to take her collar off. She's very jingly today. We'll see how it goes. She's being pretty good for her. She's having a troublemaker. Anyway, so her teammates said about her that she was a liar and a thief, and everybody said you had to watch your back when she was around, keep your locker locked because she's been known to steal stuff. So she was like the team klepto. And of course, that's not a great way to make friends. So this caused a lot of strain of all the relationships with her teams. Like, you know, it's one of those things, it's like being the girl that's like one of the best players on the team, but at the same time, the most hated. Like, I feel like it's kind of backwards from what you would expect. Like, I feel like usually on a team, like, the most valuable player is somebody that everybody, like, admires and looks up to and is, like, you know, how hard they work. Doesn't seem to be the case here because she's just not a very good, nice person. person, and stealing from people is not cool. Mm-hmm. She was also very aggressive. She was aggressive, I guess, in the gym, too. So she was, strong.
Definitely.
Which is great. I mean, I love a strong female. I love that strong female energy. But this was kind of like toxic in a way. This was like her masculine energy out of balance almost, where it like kind of became toxic for her, it seems like. And she also had a really bad temper. She was a gaslighter.
Absolutely.
Major gaslighter. Like one time on a flight home, like literally she's on a plane. You can't escape. And they're coming from Europe, which is not a short flight. One of her teammates accuses her of trying to steal a purse from under the seat. Literally, you're in a confined fucking plane. And the girl, like, starts yelling. She's like, oh my God. And everybody's like, what's happening? And they're like, Brittany just tried to take my purse. Okay, so on a plane, coming back from Europe with her entire team, and this bitch really has the nerve to gaslight the fuck out of her teammates because she thinks it's a good idea, mid-flight, to steal one of her teammates' purses. Like, nobody's gonna notice. And, of course, she gets caught. One of her teammates starts, like, causing a scene on the plane. Yelling,
on the plane.
Oh, my God. Like, and it gets everybody's attention. And she flat out accuses Brittany and says, you tried to take my purse. And, of course, Brittany stands up and is like, no, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Which is complete bullshit and, like, really pisses me off. So, this is the kind of person she is. Moving on to the next section. Bitch is broke as fuck. And this is, like, in court records. Before any of, like, the crime itself that we're going to talk about today took place, she actually was living a very broke bitch lifestyle. She struggled a lot financially. Are you ready for details on this? Because they're pretty interesting on just how poor and unpopular she was. New York State filed a civil suit against her because she was so far in default on her student loans. She owed nearly $20,000, so that's not great. Even her former hairdresser, this story made me sad. This was one of the things that, like, this was a pretty deep dig to find this. Like, just basically people telling their personal accounts of, like, experiences with her. Her hairdresser wrote a blog about it. So, like, that's just how shitty she was. Apparently, Brittany ordered some imported hair and received a full weave. So her hair was probably, like, gorgeous and amazing. He was pretty classy about the whole thing with the way he wrote it. But at the end of her service, she claimed someone in the salon had stolen her money out of her wallet.
Of course.
He wrote about it, and he wrote, like, I was devastated. It was, like, a really sad... He wasn't coming from a place of anger. He was coming from a place of, like, I was so disappointed. And, like, I really wanted to hug him. He seemed very genuine. And then Brittany, on top of that, promised to return.
She's affecting real people's lives. Like, it's... Yeah.
And she promised to return with the money, too. And, of course, she never did. And then another time, her landlord had to take her to court because she didn't pay rent. She didn't play or pay any rent for a hot minute. Wow. So she's not great with finances. So that's a little bit about Brittany Norwood, the aggressor in our case. So now we're going to kind of shift over, and we're going to talk about Jaina Murray. She's a vastly different energy than what we are getting from Brittany, which is funny. In the original episode, I guessed her sun and moon and guessed it correctly based on just the energy.
Oh, yeah, right. I was, like, not really paying attention then. Yeah, you did. And the last time we recorded, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And then she goes, is it this and this? And I was like,
I was right. I was right.
I was really impressed.
And then no one ever...
no one's going to be able to witness that.
So
it's not, except for me.
Except for you. So, and the camera that ate our souls. So anyway, we're going to talk quickly about Jaina. So she was a 30-year-old grad student at Johns Hopkins University. She is described by everybody who knew her as being, like, bright, loving, compassionate, intelligent. She was really adventurous. She liked to have fun. She was very devoted to her family, so, like, people really loved her. She, actually, one of her favorite things to do, like, adventure-wise, was bungee jumping. So she was, like, a little adrenaline junkie. And her father described her as the most fearless person that he had ever known, which is so sweet. And then her mom said, this is a direct quote from her mother, people have always commented that it was her smile and it was her hugs. Whether she knew you for 2 seconds or 2 years, those were her greetings. She wanted people to feel comfortable and happy. So Jaina's like really got a sweet energy to her. Always happy and smiling, had lots of friends, outgoing. It just makes the story like, it's a tragic story anyway, but when you just hear about her character and like how much people loved her. And also, even more awful is Jaina was 2 months away from earning her MBA. And that was like her goal, and she's going to start a whole new chapter of her life. Fucking horrible.
School is torturous, and like,
I can say,
getting that close to, oh my god.
Like, if somebody murdered me right now, I would need to avenge it, like, based on the fact that I was so close.
She'll hunt you real bad.
Yeah, I will. I will haunt you. Don't murder me. So, it's just, like, it's really shitty for a lot of reasons, but, like, if you just think about, she's probably working at LULULEMON part-time, and she was, like, management position, so she's, you know, worked her way up. It's a decent job to have, especially if you're into, like, adventure and, like, sports, athletics, and that's kind of like the culture and like a good, and she was so close to being able to quit that job and, you know, move into a whole different role. But of course, the whole trajectory of her life, she had no way of knowing this was going to happen to her. So now we're going to talk about just how intense yoga pants can really be, in case you didn't know. So the night of the killing, we've got Brittany and we've got Jaina, and they close the store together, and then they each leave separately. So it's like, okay, end of the night. But then Brittany actually lured Jaina back to the store. And then there was a horrible crime that happened once they got inside. So trigger warning, we're going to start getting into some rough shit, and this is a really, really brutal crime. I'm not going to go super like graphic on you guys, but it's definitely really fucked up. So just kind of brace yourself a little bit. It was cold and calculated because Brittany told Jaina that she forgot her wallet in the store, and that it was like an emergency. Like, we got to go back. I forgot this. And of course, Jaina was really sweet. And she was like, oh yeah, okay, I've got a key. I'll meet you back up there, doing you a favor. So they go up there, she's going to unlock the door really quick, you know, being nice, and then Brittany just full on attacks her. So she uses more than 5 different weapons, and they were not like, she's not using guns, knives, traditional weapons. She's actually just using shit she's finding around the store that are there. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute and list out like all the things she used, but we're going to kind of jump timelines real quick. And we're going to work backwards to the discovery of the crime. So this was kind of like the precursor of like how they got there. And now we're going to go ahead and we're cutting to another section called It's Brittany, Bitch. Hey. She's ready for the role of a lifetime. Ugh, hate her so much. Okay, so the next morning, an employee shows up to open the store just like normal. And Brittany was actually found bound with rope and bloodied, and then of course Jaina was deceased and laying in a pool of her own blood. And Brittany appeared to be very traumatized by it all. She had a cut, like a slit in the crotch of her pants, so it looked, you know, like there was possibly a sexual assault or something of that nature. She never opened her eyes or anything when the officers arrived on scene, which is kind of weird. That she was just kind of like laying there, like, I don't know if she was playing dead or what she was doing. But when the officers like spoke to her, she like jumped up like a jolted. It just felt very unnatural. That was one of the things that like the cops commented on that was kind of odd.
That was weird.
Like, oh, you startled me. Like, you woke me up from my nap. Like, it was kind of that energy. But she initially told police that the 2 of them were attacked by 2 men. So, you know, she's like, I'm a witness, I'm a victim too, like, it was just terrible, and tells them this story. That 2 men entered the store after they were closing, and then she tells them that the attackers sexually assaulted her, and kind of, okay, next level on the sexual assault shit, trigger here. She claimed that she was assaulted with a wooden clothes hanger. And it's super fucked up because we know she's fucking lying about it.
Right,
like,
they're gonna test her. Like, I don't know how she didn't think of that. I mean, I do know, but look at her chart.
And it's just like, bitch, what is wrong with you? Like, that's such a fucked up, that's her go-to. Like, it just, And it makes me wonder, like, how long was she laying in the floor after all this, like, thinking about what she was going to say, and that's where her mind went. It's just really gross. And, of course, like you said, medical examiners, they're going to do their fucking job and do a rape kit and see, oh, there's nothing going on here. Like, I don't know if she just thought they were going to take her word for it. Whatever. So, yeah, luckily, neither victim had any sexual assault. And then Brittany claimed that the attackers had already killed Jaina before they did this to her. Anyway, the only confirmed injuries were really superficial, small wounds on her arms, face, torso, legs, other extremities. And then there was one very suspicious wound on her right hand, which is, a stabbing wound, very commonly. If it's not a self-defense wound, it's commonly wounds on your hand. Yeah. It's going to be like from a knife plunging or a sharp object plunging backwards into your hand during like the stabbing. If you think of it's like a...
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's very common. That's one of the things that when they arrest somebody, and that's one of the things they do look at. If you're a murder suspect, they want to look at, you have a cut on your hand. What happened there? If it's a stabbing, that's a very common injury. Because if you think about the knife coming in, and you think about how many times somebody is doing that.
Yeah, and like the force, and like I'm sure that
like it's like stabbing meat. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy. It's not like stabbing.
And it's butter, like in the heat of everything, and then you're being wow.
And you're thinking the blood, and it's slippery, and you're repeatedly doing that motion. Yeah, so
I've never put that much thought into it.
I watch a lot of true crime.
I'm glad that you're here to educate on the.
I know a lot. I just happen to. I have a lot of exposure. It comes with the territory, because I love several other true crime podcasts, and some of them are a little bit more investigatory based, and Paul Holes specifically, the apple of my eye, talks a lot about those types of injuries and gives some great detail. He was a homicide detective who, shout out, solved the Golden State Killer case after it had been cold for 40 years with familial DNA.
Wow.
So yeah, he's like, Paul Holes is incredible. Love the podcast that he does with Billy Jensen. So shout out to them and the Murder Squad. They're great. Anyway, going back to the story here. So, big problem after, adding on to, the superficial injuries, the cut on her hand, there's more problems here because there's only 2 sets of footprints in the store. She claimed that there were 4 people there. So that's interesting that only 2 of them there would only be evidence that 2 people had been there. So, Brittany's footprints were there, and then a random set of footprints. Goodness, I can't talk tonight. From a pair of shoes that were found inside the store. So they're like, so they're actually not shoes anybody wore in there. They're literally just like her weapon choices sitting in the store. So, of course. Also, Jaina's car had been moved, which was odd.
That is very weird.
And it had Brittany's blood in it, which she had a story to tell the cops to kind of minimize any guilt that they might have or any suspicion they might have. So she told them that the assailants ordered her to repark the car, which makes a lot of sense. I don't know. It had been sitting outside the front of the store. So, I guess plausibly maybe they would, I don't see why they'd be concerned with that. Realistically, I feel like this is a bad story. We know it's not true, but it's a bad story. Yeah. But yeah, she said that they told her to be back in 10 minutes or they'd kill her.
Wow.
If somebody told me that, I'd be getting in that fucking car and driving off, especially since she said that Jaina was killed first in her story.
Right.
That would have been her chance to escape and get help. But so it's just like a stupid story. It doesn't make any sense. But sure. So for several days, she kept lying to the police and her family, telling everybody her story about these intruders that came in. The evidence is going to tell a very different story, though. And everybody was freaking out in the area, too. Like, other retailers, other merchants in the area were like, that's very scary to think that people are breaking in and wanting to attack your employees or rob you or whatever it is. Like, it had everybody kind of on high alert. Which is interesting. So people are amping up their security. And then finally, an employee from the Apple store that was nearby came forward and said on the night of the murder that he could hear two women yelling and screaming. And he heard one of them say, "Oh God, please help me." Fuck. Which is awful. Also, he didn't call for help, which is, I'm sure he felt awful about it.
Now, yeah, after the fact.
But, you know, that would have been nice if that would have happened. I don't know if anybody could have stopped this, but still. But everybody was really scared about the story in the downtown area, and it was like a high-end area. It's like a fancy-ass Lululemon region so it's people are expecting this type of crime to happen there. So like they now are hiring security guards, like walking employees to their cars at night and taking extra precautions, and citizens were like being mindful too, and they offered a reward for more than $150,000 to catch these intruders. So that's all going on. Let's flash back now. Let's jump timelines again to what really fucking happened that night. So let's leave fantasy land. We're going to move right back into reality. Because at some point, the timeline is a little bit confusing. I had to put a lot of sources together to try to piece this whole timeline of events together, and I still had some confusion. I couldn't find anything that was like definitive. Basically, Jaina found some yoga pants from the store in Brittany's bag, and it's a retail thing. You have to do a purse check.
Yeah.
I did it when I worked at that horrible retail store I was talking about. But it's like, even if you're the manager, like the employee, like if you're closing, you both have to look in each other's bags any shift. Like it's a whole thing in retail to like prevent theft internally. So it's a deal. And of course, Brittany knows this. You know that that's a thing. You always know that's going to happen. Like I knew after every shift that was going to happen. So it's not like they're going to forget. So it's kind of dumb as fuck that she thought she could steal his pants. And of course, Jaina sees them, asks her for a receipt, and then Brittany's like, "Oh yeah, girl, I got that receipt. Let's go look it up in the computer." Because I actually misplaced it, and it's not in the system. Everything's done by a SKU number. It it tells you how much inventory you have of everything. Like, girl, you work there. You should fucking know this. But sure, she really, I guess it's kind of like impulsive. Like it seems like she couldn't resist doing this. It was almost like, with how often that she stole, partially it seems financial, but partially it also seems like just a compulsion and just a thing she wanted to do.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Like, kind of enjoyed it. Like, she can't, it's like when you don't have the means to reach your goals or get the things that you want, and like in a way that's like acceptable. So finding your own alternate route to get what you want, that can lead to a lot of crime. And it did for her. And it also might have been a thrill thing for her. I'm not quite sure. But from what I can gather, this whole incident happened earlier in the night. And Brittany was like worried she'd be in trouble for it. Jaina had already talked to the manager about it. So she was going to be in trouble. And it wasn't like it was a secret that was going to stay between them. And that she could convince her to not say it. But I think that's probably why she wanted to meet her up at the store and be like, hey, like maybe they tried to talk it out. And Jaina was like, maybe told her. This is me speculating. Yeah. But I could see a conversation going down where it's like, no, sorry, like I already reported it. That's my job, and
like, yeah, exactly. Like it's not.
We don't really know what happened. We don't know why. We don't know that conversation. We have no way of knowing because Brittany has never been, to my knowledge, has been forthcoming about that. But what we do know is that, trigger warning, Brittany bludgeoned, choked, and stabbed Jaina to death, and she used, like I said, 5 different weapons. She inflicted a total of 331 separate stab wounds.
That's insane.
Like, we were talking about earlier, like the stabbing motion. Can you, at 300 plus times? That's insane. Wow. Like, to think about the rage, like knowing how angry and aggressive that this girl, and also how small she was, and just thinking about her just like going full primal, like, it's really a disturbing thought. But it sounds like she just flew into like blind rage at this point. And they weren't even real weapons. Once again, it's just shit from the store. And so here's the list. She used a hammer, a wrench, a knife. She did use a knife, a rope, and a peg from like a mannequin leg. Like that you put the plastic pieces on. So that's super fucked. The blows to Jaina's head were too numerous to count. So her skull was fractured, her spinal cord was severed, and the wound like extended all the way through her neck. So it was like, God. When you think about,
wonder how many she lived through. You know, God, like,
yeah. There's no way of, or at least without you know autopsy reports and going really deep. You actually do have to pay. I could access those. We'd have to pay for it. So like, if our Patreon got to the point where we could like support some additional research, because there's actually a lot of like archive articles and things that you can't access without. And accessing some court records are like that too. Like sometimes records are sealed and you can get access to sealed court records, which is pretty cool.
That's on y'all. Come on.
Help us out if you want that. I would love to be able to kind of go a little bit deeper and make like anything that's going in a court document is going to be cleared as factual. And I would feel personally like a lot more proud to present you guys with that level of fact versus me going through like 12 sources and like doing the best I can to like piece it together. But you know, we're working with what we got around here, clearly, especially with technology. We just use what we have, y'all. We're innovative as fuck around here at Dark Alignment.
We just did a whole lot of y'alls.
Whole lot of y'alls. I'm all about y'alls. I don't mean to be. Damn it. Being from the South is rough. I almost said y'all again. So, her skull is fractured, spinal cord is severed, her head was like, they couldn't figure out how many wounds she had. It was just so bad. She sustained quite a beating. And then after the attack, after Brittany does all this, then she moves Jaina's car from the front of the store because it was double parked. So that was going to draw attention. Like somebody was going to actually, you know, because if you think about it, she pulled up on the curb to like run in and get a wallet real quick. She wasn't trying to stay there and hang out with Brittany all night, you know? But it also like moving that car from the time that anybody found them, she had 10 hours to stage her crime scene, which is exactly what she did. And like I mentioned, that pair of shoes earlier that was found inside the store, it was a pair of size 14 Reebok tennis shoes. Brittany puts these on, and mind you, again, she's 5 foot tall. Her shoe size is probably size 6, size 7 at the most. And she's putting on size 14 Reebok tennis shoes and tromping around the fucking store, which is embarrassing to think about. And it's also, like, fucked up and gross. She actually walks through Jaina's blood to, like, try to make the footprints, which is just so, like, it's so gross and disrespectful. And then after she does this, she gives herself some cuts and wounds, and she ties herself up, and then she just, like, lays down on the floor. And she's like, cool, this is my plan now. And the pictures, which I got them in the photo gallery. Perfect. The pictures of her, when the police took them, of her, like, laying on the floor and shit, with, like, she's made sure she's in, like, a weird state of, like, half dress. Like, she's wearing this, like a sports bra and, like, the pants that she had cut. And her hands are just, so her hands are tied and she's got them over her head. Nobody put them there. She's laying there with her hands.
Just because.
So it's kind of like you could put them anywhere. Girl, they're not. It had a lot of stagedness to it. So now we're going to jump over to the investigation portion and the trial. Right. And of course, like I said, police were immediately suspicious of Brittany just because, again, of how she was tied up and the wounds and just some of the evidence. They thought she had done it to herself, but they wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, which was great on their part, you know, and she was being cooperative. They did, you know, it's one of those things you don't ever want to assume a victim is lying. You want to encourage people to come forward because there are so many crimes that are unreported for that fact of people think like, oh, no one's going to believe me. So it's like excellent police protocol to let the evidence do the talking and not necessarily like I suspect you and then try to form evidence to make that true. So this was good police work, I have to say. She went into detail with them, telling them her story once again, and she adds some pretty gross fucking inflammatory shit to it. One of the things that really pissed me off, I really hate, this made me cringe, but I'm going to say it because it's so cringeworthy. The cops wanted to know, like, why didn't the assailants kill you? Like, why did they kill Jaina and not you? Like, what did you do? And she goes, oh, I was fun to fuck.
So she deserved to live, I guess, because she was just such a great...
And she added that they called her, the masked men called her a dirty slut, you know, and other racial terms.
I like how she has to, like, pump her own ego within this, like, dang.
Also, fun to fuck. Just put that on your Tinder profile, bitch. Like, I don't know. But yeah, she also claimed they used racial slurs against her. She's African American, so that was kind of like, she's adding more inflammatory stuff to this. And then she said that they, like, pushed her onto Jaina's body. Like, she's just kind of adding a lot of things that are, like, outlandish to kind of... I don't really know what her strategy with this is, but it's just, like, making the story more fucked up. Maybe so they would believe her. I don't know why she thought that would make it more believable or what her deal was. It's gross. It just makes her seem more depraved with every fake detail she's providing. So...
It does.
She was also really emotional when she was talking to police, which is interesting. So she's deceptive. She can easily drop some emotions, which is kind of impressive. So she does have emotions, but she seems to use them in a very manipulative way, which is gross. Which actually I think I just remembered what my guess was for her. Sun and moon.
Do you want to try to guess it again? See if you remember?
I feel like...
For Brittany?
I feel like it was Gemini, Sun, Aries, Moon.
Ooh, so
right?
close.
I
think
so
that's
close?
the same guess.
Okay.
I think that's the same guess.
Okay, was that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I felt, because it is, again, like, her being able to drop the emotions, but in a very specific way, and just kind of the other characteristics of her. I was like, yeah, I feel that pretty strong. Yeah, I actually don't remember what it really was, so... we'll reveal that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay with us. So, she's telling the police this story. She's being emotional about it. She's claiming that the attackers also looked at her ID and that they know her address and that they made threats against her family. So she's like basically telling them, like, I'm putting myself in danger by testifying and telling you things. Not testifying, but like, you know, giving you a statement. And her family, of course, is so concerned because they are thinking, like, my daughter was attacked, my daughter was a victim. Like oh my God. No family is immediately going to think otherwise, even if their daughter's, like, known for being a klepto or something. Like, they don't know her for being a violent person, so just aggressive. Those are not the same thing. You can be aggressive and not be violent. So, interesting stuff. So... Everything, they are still viewing her, the police, as a victim until they get a follow-up interview with her. And to get her to come back to the station again for a follow-up, they rused her there and they were like, hey, we need to take your fingerprints and hair samples because we need to distinguish between yours and what was left by the suspects. So she's like, all right. So she goes in, she's cooperative, she tells them her story one more time, which again, it's very stupid and doesn't make sense. She'd been talking to her brother, but police had a video, like audio recording of this conversation. So I don't know if he was at the police station. I don't know how they obtained this, but I did find in one of my sources that it was just like an off-the-cuff conversation where her brother goes, did she accuse you of stealing? Is that what all this is about?
Oh,
and Brittany said, I've never been accused of anything. Except publicly on a fucking plane in front of everybody and like 12 other times. And also publicly been accused of not paying rent.
Gaslight.
Yeah, again. Gaslighting. Hardcore gaslighting.
That's not reality.
It's frustrating. So the cops are onto her and they get creative about it. So they like are seeing through all her shit and they charge her ass with both first and second degree murder. And the reason for this is that, like, there's an issue here legally with proving intent, and that's the differentiator between first degree and second degree murder. So, intent / premeditation. Basically, that to prove first degree murder, they would have to prove that Brittany wanted Jaina to meet her at the store to murder her. it's hard to prove that.
Mm-hmm.
So going with a second degree murder case is a little bit more of like they got there, things escalated, and then she intentionally committed a violent crime that ended in murder. So it's a little bit, the intention and the premeditation planning portion is the differentiator there. But the trial didn't last very long. It actually only lasted 8 days, which is pretty short. And Brittany was convicted of first degree murder on January 7th, or 27th, 2012. So, sentencing, final details. So Brittany and her attorneys asked for a sentence of life with parole. Brittany was all sad and desperate to please, saying like, I don't even ask about this for myself. I just want this for my family, especially my mom and dad. But the judge was like, bitch, no. He was very unmoved. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is mainly like a result of the aggravating factors in this case, like just the brutality of it. The judge said it was the most cold-blooded, brutal, calculated, deliberate, devious, and malicious crime he had ever seen. He referred to Brittany as a deeply troubled woman and practically said he had no sympathy for her, so she can eat shit. The public agrees. People started applauding when the verdict was handed down, and the judge had to call for order and get everybody to calm down. Like, yikes. So,
for real, yikes.
Brittany gave another statement after receiving her sentence, which is like, really, bitch? Do we really want to hear more from you? Like, we really don't, but too bad. She has things to say.
Of course.
You're going to hear it. She looks at Jaina's family.
Oh, no.
That didn't make me and says, before I go to prison, I needed you to hear how deeply sorry I am.
Oh, no one cares.
But her words were totally fucking lost on them. Each of them got to speak. It's called a victim impact statement, and they do it in sentencing. It doesn't really have any statistically, it doesn't have any sway on the sentence or how that's like brought down. But what it does do is it gives the victim's family a chance to fucking look that bitch in the face and say whatever they want to in open court. I don't know. I feel like some of the most hardcore ones I've ever seen were Dahmer. When there was a woman who her brother was murdered by him, and it makes me cry every time I see it. I have chills right now thinking about it. She loses her shit to the point where they had to restrain her. She was like ready to attack him, which I wish they would have let her. I wish they would have let her just attack him, but of course they didn't.
By the way, we have an episode on Dahmer.
Oh yes, episode 9.
Yes.
I know all the episodes. I don't know how I know that, but yes, season 1, episode 9. If you want to hear the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which that one's really intense. So she makes this like very asshole statement, but the family gets to like come back and say what they want. They were all really emotional. They emphasized, how nothing was going to bring Jaina back. Her brother kind of fucking mic dropped the shit out of everybody, which was pretty awesome. He was very intense. He was referencing quotes from the Old Testament.
Perfect.
And Dante's Inferno from Greek mythology. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a fantastic piece of literature. Very fascinating about all the different, I think it's like 7 or 9 layers of hell, and like what happens to different people in different levels of hell. And it's like Dante goes on a tour of hell. So yeah, he's like going real deep and getting real poetic with it, which is like really badass. It is like one true moment to do this. And a little bit of like kind of ending on a lighter note-ish here is Jaina's family set up a scholarship foundation to commemorate her life and her legacy, because she, school and education are really important to her. So that, my friends, is the Lululemon murder, the story of Brittany Norwood and the tragic murder of Jaina Murray. So now that we've gone through the story, I think we're going to chart it up.
Yep.
We're going to start with Brittany.
Yep.
All right.
Chart this bitch.
We're going to chart that bitch. Okay. Are you ready to chart that bitch? She is a bitch.
We'll start with her. That'll be good. Okay.
Brittany Norwood. Ugh. A very small murderer. A very small, aggressive. It feels like Chihuahua energy.
Like, it is Chihuahua energy.
It's like, that's what it feels like.
Like angry, mean Chihuahua energy.
Yeah, not that.
No offense to the sweet ones.
No offense to sweet ones, but or let's just say dachshund energy, because I have 2 dachshunds, and sometimes they can be real barky and aggressive, and they shouldn't be.
Maybe. I feel like Chihuahua though.
Speaking of, when we were hearing some jingling earlier from my dog Evelyn, we took a quick break and went into my living room, and there was a pillow completely gutted. I'm talking
stuffing all over the floor.
I'm talking like massive stuffing. Fucking everywhere. So that's what she was doing. That's good times to discover that. Puppies. Evelyn will be 1 year old this week also. That's
sweet baby puppy. Yeah, for those of you who go back, who've been listening, she got the puppy.
I did.
Today mentioned on the podcast, showed a picture, very sweet.
I know. Evelyn was very much a planned experience that has been talked about a lot on this podcast. So
you're along for the ride.
Yeah, you guys know her. You may love her. You may be irritated with her.
That's how we feel too.
I was gonna say that's really the sentiment for everyone.
All right, this Chihuahua bitch.
Chihuahua bitch.
All right. She was born May 19th, 1982. We don't have a birth time for either of them, so we don't have houses. We don't have vertex, or
rising
we don't have that stuff
either.
Well, yeah, that would be with the house system. So that means no rising. That means no midheaven.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we have her sun in Taurus cusping Gemini, which is
okay.
But it's right on the cusp.
That's right.
It's right there.
I do remember that now. I remember like I was close because I was upset about it being a Taurus because I love Taurus energy so much, and I was like, wait a second.
And then moon in Aries, which is, again, the most common moon for serial killers and killers.
I really think that she would be a Gemini rising. Maybe.
I would love to see the houses if anyone can find a birth time.
I
don't think that we will.
I went deep in my research, so I don't know, unless anybody has access to her birth certificate. So if you're her parents and you're watching this...
Anyone who knows personally, for some reason, knows their birth times, please send them.
Actually, yeah, that would be cool. Mm-hmm. But who is that person other than her parents?
We have had people who've known... killers directly reach out to us before. So
we had somebody comment that they went to school with Casey Anthony.
And
I was like, I need to talk to you, please.
And another person who went to school with the Columbine. One of the Columbine.
Yeah, it's super cool when you guys connect with us and tell us your personal stories.
Love it.
Like, we love it. So, yeah, if you have any connection, tell us. Oh, we also had the Gacy with my friend Katie. Mm-hmm. Katie! Yeah, she had a close connection, like a 2 degrees of separation from John Wayne Gacy, which was a really cool story. So
check that out.
Check that out.
All right, so back to Brittany, Chihuahua. We have Sun in Taurus, cusping Gemini. So also, I just want to mention on her chart real quick. There's a lot of things in retrograde. We have Juno in retrograde, Neptune, Uranus, Ceres, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Pallas. No, that's it. Pallas, yeah. So that's several retrogrades going on, and they're not that well. They are born in separate years, but when you flip over to Jaina's chart, she all the stuff she has in retrograde is like flipped compared to Brittany's. So they have different things they're introspective about, different things, planets working actively, and things like that. So.
Okay, so when a planet retrogrades in your chart, is it kind of like it's on vacation and not like helping you out? It's like that energy is not there for you? Is that kind of...
It's there in a different way. It's more of an inward type of way rather than an outward.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, perfect. I like hearing that what I say makes sense because sometimes there's a lot and it's hard to explain. Okay, so Sun in Taurus, cusping Gemini. Gemini, one of the things I always think about Gemini is it kind of creates this like salesman fake persona thing that they can get into. Not that every Gemini has this, or a person with a lot of Gemini energy doesn't necessarily do this, but they can. So like they can use that energy in that way if they can get in the pattern of doing that really easy. Is what I'm trying to say.
I always feel like Gemini energy is really adaptable.
Like
it feels very chameleon, very highly adaptable. Like they kind of adjust to situations, kind of to put their best foot forward, so to speak, and however they want. That's kind of how it.
Yeah, people say Geminis are like two-faced, but really it's just like multiple faces. Like they can put on what they would need to do. Almost kind of like a Pisces rising can do that too.
I've heard that a lot about Pisces rising too, and that's really interesting.
So, this is like that energy mixed with the Taurus material world energy, where you're focused on comfort and the value of things, the worth of things, what you possess in this world, how you find stability in the physical plane. And so having that focus on those two things, it can create like this situation where you're trying to get that material earthly security in life, and using that Gemini like I just pictured someone making a cake and like frosting, you know, so like it's like the Gemini frosting on the Taurus cake.
I love this.
Like using that little extra Gemini icing to like make that happen, adapt to the situation, because Taurus is not known for being an adaptable energy. You know, they're very steadfast, very, people say stubborn, but really like they're very stuck in their way. Like they are the bull, you know, they have their way of doing things and that's what they're gonna do. They're rooted in that. But having that Gemini icing kind of like gives you that like pizzazz that lets you do other things and manipulate things into your favor and adapt to different situations a little bit more on your feet.
It could be a really helpful
it's
energy if
really
it is used in a positive way.
Yes, it's how you use it.
Yeah. That sounds like a really awesome like tool to have in your toolkit, you know, like.
And it can also make her come off more like fun and energized. Gemini solar energy like expresses a bright curiosity about the world. Again, adaptable, witty. It can be fun-loving, very communicative, like forward-thinking, like thinking about like being in the present, but also thinking about what's coming up next. It can also create these two energies together for her sun can also create this focus on appearances and like scheming. And she also has Mercury in Gemini, which adds to that Gemini experience.
Experience.
Your chart is an experience, okay?
I like that.
Yeah,
I like the framework.
You're in a human experience, and this is kind of the details of it mapped out. Yeah, it can give her like a quicker mind, just by having that there. I wrote. There's also, I'm referring to some old notes here from the first recording.
Which is tough
with some fresh ones. It's kind of hard for me to do it this way, but I'm sticking it out. There's also a quincunx over to her south node and vertex. Well, if her vertex is remotely accurate, but her south node, it can show she's stuck in the past, in an old drama, like always. Like she's always gonna get kicked back to that mindset. Just really gonna make it hard. Like she's gonna be fixated on those old things. Like that can cause a big problem. There is a conjunction on her sun sign to Chiron. And if you're not familiar with Chiron, it's an asteroid that shows your vulnerabilities, your traumas in life. It's when you have Chiron, wherever you have it, it shows a place where you were kind of down on your luck in life. Like it's not something that you did to yourself. It's just something that happens in your life. You're kind of meant to suffer in this area and overcome it, and then be able to help others with that if you go through with that healing in your life. I'm not sure if she did or has yet, but she has it conjunct her sun sign, which is very difficult to have it conjunct your sun sign. This shows your trauma is on your own being, on yourself, on your personality, on your light that you shine for the world. Yeah, so it's very, very personal and direct, and it's not even internal. It's like you have this gaping wound just on your general self. Like, yeah, I could also see it's really difficult for, any kind of major conjunction on the chart, but having it on your sun sign is very difficult. It can definitely bring up like depression and a lot of issues like that. But being in Taurus, it also shows she'll have at some point, it's usually the earlier part of your life that this hits. She's gonna have some kind of feeling of that she was lacking material resources or felt ungrounded. This can also bring up body dysmorphia. She'll want to gather resources and save a lot. She's going to be really kind of desperate to have things. And
that showed up a lot in a physical way.
Right, and it's going to show in her personality so much because it's like conjunct her sun sign. To help with this type of thing, if you have this placement on your chart, therapy, any kind of therapy to heal the five senses, to really get back in touch with the body and feel safe and secure in the body, comfortable in the body, taking care of the body. It can also bring up health issues with the throat to have this. So if you do experience issues with the throat, like take really good care of your throat. Any kind of grounding exercise is really great for this. Being able to physically see the comfort around you and do tactile things, or I'll move on. Let's see, off of her sun sign she has a trine to her Mars and Pallas, and this is one of the many things on her chart that leads to a quick temper and easily for her to be aggressive. Having that trine there shows a really easy flow of energy between her Mars, which is your fire and your passion and your warrior energy, and her own being. So, let's see. Is there another aspect? And she also has a quincunx over to her Lilith and Neptune in retrograde. And I made a note about this. That Lilith and Neptune in retrograde is in Sagittarius. And this is a lot about... Sagittarius generally wants to avoid conflict. They're not ones... When you have your Mars here or something like that, or Lilith, which is where I'm kind of going with this, is Lilith is how you empower yourself, right? But in Sagittarius, it's kind of like, I'm going to try to get around this, or I'm going to avoid this to get out of it, or to empower myself through this situation. And being right on Neptune in retrograde, that shows a lot of trying to create delusions around things. So avoiding conflict by manipulation and lies. And she's really fixated in that energy.
In fantasy land. Yeah, she is.
Yeah. So that's just great for her.
God.
We have her moon over there in Aries, and this is really... I always forget that I can swear.
Yeah, you can say the fuck word if you feel like
the fuck words.
You can say all the fuck words.
All the fuck words.
This is a fuck word podcast now.
The fuck word podcast. All right. So, really fucking intense here with the moon in Aries, conjunct Venus, and conjunct Pholus. And if you remember much about Pholus, it leads to an exaggeration of wherever it is. So it's already an exaggeration of the Aries energy here, and an exaggeration of it on her moon, and an exaggeration of it. It's like exponentially, throwing this out on itself. Having your moon conjunct Venus, it really shows that you, what you care about and value. Let me see. Your emotions are really strongly tied to what you care about and value. Also, obviously, romantic type of situations. But it's about your instinctive emotional expression and processing. How you receive and perceive loving energy and relationships. And it kind of makes me wonder how she really... her foundation for love, her Ceres is over in a Scorpio. In retrograde. So it makes me think maybe in her childhood or something, maybe that was very aggressive type of love that she witnessed, or I'm kind of curious what her idea of that is.
It makes me wonder what she's like out in the dating world? You know, like what were her relationships
a hot
like?
Mess.
Because nobody,
a hot aggressive mess.
Because nobody came forward and made, at least not that I could find in any of the articles or any of the pieces that I read in the personal accounts. It was no like former boyfriend. So I'm wondering if maybe she was just so aggressive that she didn't actually have long term. I don't know. That would kind of be my assumption, just based off of kind of her energy and her personality.
A lot of intensity, and there's a quincunx from Ceres to her Venus, and so I feel like she's not really going to feel comfortable in a relationship, at least not easily, and be very. Anyways,
interesting to think about.
It is interesting.
I'm curious about it. Like as you were talking about it, I was thinking that too. Like I wonder what she's like. Yeah, and what was modeled for her. Like what is her interpretation of love and how a loving relationship should be.
Like having that Ceres and Scorpio shows like this in retrograde too, like a power struggle kind of dynamic, or like but then she's so aggressive, and that intensity from Scorpio and like wanting to have a deep like connection to somebody, but then at the same time, is she going to even allow that with her other placements? So it's like,
do you think it's with her with that placement? Would you say it's maybe more of an internal struggle, or do you think it is aggressive outwardly, like towards a partner, or is like, can you kind of tell that if it's like an internal versus external? I don't know if that shows.
I would say her aggression
curious.
Her aggression is definitely external.
Okay.
I don't think there's even like a whim for her to try to keep it in, you know?
Okay, all right. That's answers my question. Just kind of based on what you're seeing. I just really am curious what you're like putting feelers on it, like where you kind of are reading that.
Yeah, like I don't think that with her chart, there's not a lot of like forethought with her aggression.
Okay. It just is impulsive, which I feel that impulsive vibe from her anyway, but. Yeah,
absolutely.
Wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, this is gonna be like a quick trigger type of person. Like she's got the fullness there. Her moon. So anytime the moon is in Aries, it's kind of like everything gets this. Every emotion gets this like layer of anger with it. Like,
hey, you get to deal with that. You're a child.
It's like, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
She's very little right now, but yeah, that's gonna be fun in the teenage years.
But you know, Aries can also be fun loving and like. All of that. So
I like Aries.
Playful, a little youthful type of thing. A little bit of immaturity associated with that, but you know, pros and cons to everything. She's generally having your moon in Aries. It can make you, you know, your internal self then is more aggressive, fresh, outspoken. She's, you know, lively. Brash. You got to be aware of brash and impulsive actions. More likely to act out of this heightened, bold, and fiery independence. Out of this priority on independence, though, expect acts of courage and strength to come through as well. Also, that they're less likely to have emotional grudges, because. Okay. It's kind of like a spark of a fire with Aries. So it's like it goes out.
Like you get it all out, so there's no reason to hold on to it.
Yep.
That's actually kind of nice. Like
it is. That's a pro. Like you might get angered more easily and quicker, but you're not going to hold on to it the same way. With her Taurus sun sign, she might hold on to it a little bit more, but it's cusping Gemini, so it's kind of. Anyways. She, where was I? Okay. I think that's enough on her moon. Well, she does have squares to her north and south node, so we can tell that her aggressive emotional tendencies really are a major conflict and challenge to her life path. So she's holding herself back. Like this is something that she is going to need to overcome to move forward with her life. At this point, I don't know, she might have just taken it too far, like, if she does, her north node is in, Cancer, so this is a lot about her learning how to feel things in a healthy way.
Ooh. I don't feel like she did. I don't think she maybe she will in prison.
We'll see, maybe in prison.
Maybe that's how. Maybe that is like the, I don't know, because it's,
It can also just make her become more and more crabby. We'll see.
More
like
and
literally
more
crabby in Cancer, yeah. I like that you like that so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like that a lot.
Dang. Alright, let's see.
Just the thought of her being all pissy in prison is just kind of like
pissy prison attitude.
Like she's sitting there with her arms folded, like really making faces. You think she's a cunt in prison? I kind of.
I'm sure.
I want to talk
but
to
she's
her.
So small. I don't know.
She's small, but she's aggressive as hell. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they let her lift weights. She's probably. I could see her being like trying to be the most intimidating. Also, again because of her size. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Man. Let's see if there's anything else on her chart we want to mention real quick. I think I'm going to move forward because I have some Synastry notes too, so I'm going to move forward to.
That's right.
Jaina,
baby. She has such a different energy. Like it's interesting.
Completely different.
Well, as soon as I shifted over to talking about her, it's just everything softened so much from that really hard, really like packing a punch energy. That Chihuahua energy versus like, I don't even know, like a black lab energy, like golden retriever energy. Like it feels very much like sweet and...
It is. I agree with you.
And lovely. Like it feels nurturing. So.
I like how we've related them both to dogs in this episode.
I don't know what that's about. I don't know. It just feels right.
We need to give them all a dog from now on.
Yes. Okay. We're gonna give everybody.
Do you like
it? We're giving everybody spirit animals from now on.
Perfect. Something interesting is she was born on November 22nd, 1980. So she was born on a repeating number, and she died on March 11th, which is another 22 and an 11. I just think that's cool,
interesting.
Personally, 11/22, and then 11 in 2011 on the. Anyway.
Wow.
I know it's a lot. She's got repeating numbers going on.
You could do a lot of numerology stuff on that.
Yeah, I could.
I'm not great at numerology. I'd love to know more about it. It's one of the things that's like on my list of items
I can
to
show
work
you
on.
some stuff.
Please do. I like it.
So, on Jaina's chart, her sun is in Sagittarius, the first, not even a whole degree in. She's cusping Scorpio. And then her moon is in Gemini. Right off the bat, like the quotes that you got about her, people talking about her, fearless, comfortable, and happy, I think you said. That's that. She's got this grand trine on her sun. And it's like her sun sign trining Pholus, which is bringing an exaggeration of everything, trining Aries. So it's like this nice, loving, bright, excitement for life, really exaggerated energy. Like just her own personality is like really like out there and loving. Like I can really see that too. And having that Sagittarius energy kind of does bring this like fearless element into your personality too. I really like that.
I thought that was so sweet.
Because you're ready to go on an endeavor with Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's got, it's so great. It's so nice. It's a nice little.
It makes it just even sadder. Like
I know it does.
What happened to her. And
I'll make you real sad. Here we go.
I know. Okay.
Sagittarius cusping Scorpio. Sagittarius, it's this desire to reach out to the world and connect with something larger than ourselves. It's a sign of opportunity, luck, long travel, whether that's like an endeavor, a journey, whether that's physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. This can really show like looking for higher education in a lot of circumstances, especially trying to figure something out, kind of like with that Scorpio influence. Cusping Scorpio, it provides some intensity, stability to the Sagittarius lifestyle, edge, some sexuality, like an investigative nature, willing to go through transformations in life. Let's see. I got on my notes that I just mentioned that Grand Trine with a little heart. That's what I did.
Oh, it deserves that heart.
It's not very often I type out a heart.
It's really sweet energy.
Less than 3.
I feel like I would have really liked Jaina a lot. I feel like she's somebody I would have been friends with, and that.
Oh yeah, super sweet. I see a lot of sweetness.
She seems like my kind of person.
Also a committed person, you know? She's got Mars in Capricorn, which isn't it's cusping Sagittarius. So it's not always loving being in Capricorn. But having that Sagittarius influence makes it not as bad, and so that can really bring on this dedication for accomplishments, big goal-oriented. With that MBA, you can see that as well. And that Neptune in Sagittarius can also make her like a big picture dreamer, like, you know, really looking to see how far she can go with things. Motivated. You can see she really had to work hard for what she wanted to do. Because she has Saturn conjunct Jupiter. Talking about Saturn before we get to the moon. And
I know, I heard the noise a little bit. Okay.
Saturn conjunct Jupiter, it's kind of like this back and forth thing, like, because, Saturn is restriction and limitation and having to follow the rules to make things happen, having to work for your rewards, where Jupiter is like luck, abundance, gifts, benevolence, like growth, expansion. So you're like, Jupiter things are typically the things that just happen for you. Just out of, you know, existing and like, wow, the universe is taking care of me, you know.
That's a lovely place.
But having it with Saturn, that noise scared me.
Sorry, I just hit my foot. We're paranoid about technology right now, you guys.
Saturn on here, it's like everything that just comes to you, you're gonna have to work for, and everything that you're gonna work for is also kind of also gifted to you. So it's kind of like this weird conjunction to have on a chart. And in Libra being ruled by Venus and like being about partnerships in your shadow side, and it's really just like it's like a little bit of a backwards take on how you take steps towards your goals. I could see it as a blessing and a curse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It feels like it's like your actions have to always be in line with your goals, and you have to always be like taking the right steps and doing the next thing and being like on top of it, like that Capricorn energy and that Mars energy you were talking about. And then it's like, and like it might feel like a lot of hard work, but then like the rewards are still coming. Like that's the energy that I feel like from that. Yeah, and I relate to it.
I thought you might. So you have a lot of interesting things here, but her showing basically that she is moving towards her goals and doing what she needs to do, and she cares about her future. She's got Venus quintile her north node, so she's like creatively coming up with ways, and Lilith and Pluto, so she's creatively coming up with solutions to keep herself moving towards her life path and like keep herself on the right track, even when mentally she might kind of have struggles. Maybe some kind of like imposter syndrome could have come up or something, or like she has a Mercury square, or something mentally, some kind of mental block, maybe like it's her Mercury's in Scorpio, so maybe something feeling like what she wanted to do was like taboo, or maybe something that I'm not sure exactly how that manifested. If I could see the house, I think I'd have a little bit more information on that. But she, she could have. Anyways, I was like, I almost kind of my thought moved too fast. I lost it. So I need to go back to her moon. We haven't even talked about her moon. Her moon is trine that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and trine her south node, and then sextile her north node. So that shows an emotional, a nice flow from like her past and her being able to reflect on the past, but in a positive way, if that makes sense. So it's not somebody who's stuck in the past, like the quincunx that Brittany has to her south node. This is a trine where it's usually more beneficial to have this type of aspect to your south node, and still supporting. It still supports moving forward, if that makes sense. Her moon being in Gemini again. Gemini moons, it's kind of like that really adaptive inner self, logic loving, charming, witty, busy. These are often really busy-minded people, or some of these people have insomnia because they have a hard time getting their minds to slow down and calm and shut off. Yeah. A lot of inner talk, a lot of inner dialogue with the Gemini moon. This can also be like an anxious type of placement to have if you know your mind's always kind of running, like even maybe like running different perspectives and things, maybe when it doesn't need to. Ooh. Multitasking. She may, more inclined to lean to the practical. These are people that air moons generally they think about their feelings more than they feel their feelings. You know what I mean? And then with the sun in Sagittarius, like the rest of that will just burn off. So like a lot of thought on how she's feeling. Maybe just a lot of thinking about that. Critical thinking. More focused on the close, like inner circle, like close communities. Let's see. There's a square to her Vesta, so this could show a little bit of a conflict between how she feels and what she's really devoted to in this life and her kind of morals in this life. So there's also a square from there to her sun sign. So there's some kind of conflict that she had, maybe feeling like what she wants to do isn't always the best for her or something. There's some kind of challenge that she was going to have to overcome with that. Her Vesta is in Virgo.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I wonder what that would have been,
Her Chiron is in Taurus as well, but it's in retrograde. So the feelings that she had coming up around insecurity and lacking comfort and lacking self-worth or possibly body dysmorphia, a lot of that is more internal for her, where for Brittany it was able to be externalized much easier. It also slows down your Chiron when it's in retrograde, so she might not have really addressed it as much as Brittany maybe was addressing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because she might have been a little bit like behind on the path of dealing with your Chiron.
Well.
Yeah. Let's see. Did I have any more notes on her? Oh, her Venus and her Lilith are in Libra conjunct. This brings empowerment through being loving. Venus can be bitchy, so there could be some tendencies to be a little bitchy. But in Libra, it's a pretty pleasant space, a pretty pleasant vibe for that to be taking on. So more likely, I could see her doing the kill with kindness thing.
I mean, I like that approach. I feel like I'm not confrontational, so I feel like I can get on board with that approach pretty easily.
Alright, some Synastry notes I had on them.
Yay, I love the Synastry readings. It's been a while since we've had a Synastry, I think.
Well, we got it now.
Probably Columbine was the last one? Episode 10? I know it's episode 10, but I'm pretty sure that's the last time we did a Synastry.
Well, here we go.
Here we go! It's a special treat.
Special treat.
We don't get a lot of opportunities to really do it like this, because we did like Gypsy Rose and her mom, we did the Ken and Barbie Killers, Columbine, and now this, it takes the two very directly related where it would make sense to do that. So
yeah, I like doing the Synastries.
I like hearing about the Synastry. I just think it's cool to see how the interactions.
If you get readings from me, and I end up pulling multiple, like if I pull yours and then you get one for your boyfriend and then get one for your kid or get one for people related to you, I'll probably add in some Synastry just off the cuff.
And she's so great at it.
I end up
so cool.
because these thoughts will come up and I just have to say them in the reading. So I'm like, oh yeah, and then your sun sign is right where their thing was, and then blah blah blah.
Yeah, you're so good at
you get a little bonus material.
Naturally, yeah, it's good.
Okay, So right away you can see that their suns are in opposition. Opposite sun signs, opposite Vestas.
I feel like they did not have much in common.
They're kind of almost showing each other their shadows, their shadow sides. They're not what one of them is about, the other one is not about. It's probably maybe the easiest way to say it.
Yeah, they don't seem like they would be like naturally gravitating to like be friends. Like the only reason they're in contact is because they both fucking work at LULULEMON.
I guess opposites can attract, but really like their Vestas are in opposition too. So like their morals, their what they feel in life is most important at a deep soul level is opposite. Like it's not the same. So for Jaina, hers is in her Vestas in Virgo. And so for her, it's like she really cares about things being done in a caring way, sticking with the routine, doing what you're supposed to do, doing things the right way, having this kind of earthly intuition and being of service, where Brittany is all the way across the chart in Aquarius. And it's more about doing things, being an individual, thinking of big picture kind of stuff. Like you're thinking about, especially if you're manipulative and you have like stuff in Aquarius, you're kind of on the mindset of, well, big picture, if I do this, it's not really going to affect that much in the grand scheme of things, So you're more thinking like, how can I do this differently, my own way? Let's see. A better way. My way. What? Because it's about innovation and being an individual. It's that colder cat-like thing. You want to be of service, but it's more like if you're going to do that, it's for the collective. So it's not, as long as she's not thinking, they're not thinking the same way. They're going to definitely like rub each other the wrong way with that. Mm-hmm. In addition, they have Pallas in opposition. Pallas is when you have to Pallas shows how you approach situations that bring up tough decisions, where there's not a clear right or wrong answer. Something is bad in each outcome, stuck between a rock and a hard place, or like a double-edged sword kind of thing. Like when they have to make the hard decisions, they're doing it in opposite ways. So that's another thing that's gonna clash. There's Mars are squared. Mars squared Mars. So again, like that's just whenever you see that, people are gonna fight. Okay, like they're arguing at least, or if it's not, or getting physical. And with them, it was physical, and you know who started that. So
I feel like I just like wonder what it was like to be a coworker on shift with those two. If it's like, oh God, I don't want to work with the two of them because the energy, like you could just probably feel like
I almost want
the disdain between.
Yeah, I think a disdain would be a good word because I don't know how much they would be confronting each other.
I could feel like probably Jaina would probably avoid.
I think they might avoid each other unless they like had to. Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like Brittany probably was like a loner. I honestly like working there, like even though it seems really culty, I feel like she probably would have been.
She's probably pissing everybody off.
Yeah, so. Like a little bit more pushed to the outside of the circle. You know what I mean? She was not in the like inner circle in my way I perceive it. I bet she was so intense in those fucking fitness classes too. I bet everybody was like, good God. Or maybe she's teaching them and doing great. I don't know. I don't see that, but anyway.
I don't see that.
More speculation on my part.
I can also see like a little bit of Jaina bringing out the spontaneity in Brittany, since her sun sign, Jaina's sun sign is conjunct Brittany's Uranus in retrograde in Sagittarius. So it's like that's the part of you that is like quick to change. It's unpredictable. So having her sun sign be right in that same spot can kind of bring that out in her when they're around each other, if that makes sense. So she's more likely to be sporadic when they're together. So it's just really interesting to see on the charts there. I think that's all my notes. They're definitely taking each other off and weren't about the same type of things. So
I can feel that. And of course, with the way this story ended, like it completely... It's a terrible story.
It is.
That's not the end of the chart?
I think so. I think we charted the bitch.
We charted the bitch, and then we charted a sweet girl.
We did done it.
We done it. And that, friends, is the Lululemon murder. And I hope you enjoyed the story. Hope you enjoyed the Synastry reading and the chart stuff. Check us out. We are on all the platforms now. We're on every podcast platform under the sun. All the Spotify's, all the Apple Music, all the things. YouTube if you're watching us visually. Seems like we got through it with no tech issues this time, which is fantastic for us. Again, thank you for your patience. Our next episode is going to be a Halloween episode, and for those of you who voted on Instagram and participated on the story, thank you so much. We have a winner. We know what story we're doing, and it's one that you guys picked that y'all told us you wanted to hear. So we're going to give that to you. Of course, this has been fun trying to squeeze in 2 episodes when we already recorded one. We should be recording the Halloween episode right now, but
it'll be happening very soon.
We're going to get it done on time for you guys. That's our commitment to you. Also, Patreon. If you would like to support us on Patreon, see some more in-depth research. We have some other cool ideas that we want to do kind of early next year, end of this year. So, please support us if you like our content and enjoy what you're hearing and you want some more. We will give you more content. I am on Instagram as well, at Britt_Oakley.
And I'm at Eruca Rose, and the podcast is at Dark Alignment.
At Dark Alignment.
We post a weekly killer chart.
We do.
On there. So I find whatever season it is, I find a killer that is, right now it's Libra season. I've been finding some really cool Libra killers. You gotta check them out. And
she does a really cool blurb, assessment of their chart, and it's really good. So you can check that out anytime. It's just living on our Instagram. So yeah, guys, thank you again for all of your support, and we will see you next time for a spooky episode for Halloween. So
creeps.
Take care and love yourselves. Be awesome. Goodbye.
Bye.